you don't understand anything at all about pronunciation when you're trying to learn English as a Chinese speaker, you must understand this. I don't know if any of you have ever seen a chart like this. This is like a map of where inside your mouth you are making vowel sounds. If I put a symbol back here, let's say the ah sound, it is because the sound is made in the back of the mouth, in the back of the tongue. If I make a symbol up here, that means that the tongue is up, the mouth is closed to make the sound. Down here, the mouth is open, the tongue is down to make that sound. Over here, the sound is going to be made on the front of the tongue, or in the front of the mouth. Again, up here, we're going to be closed and in the front. So if you look at this, from this map, we now have these corners. Technically, there is another sound there, but we really don't use that, especially in American English, except occasionally as part of these two sounds, the I and ow. But again, when you look at this symbol and this sound that corresponds to this symbol, you're not really thinking of in a precise location. Really, it could be anywhere around here, but the point is that this sound is going to be more in the front. Now, most people will practice this ah sound more when we're talking about sounds up in the front, so I don't pay much attention to this ah here. So when I talk about corners, I usually do the ah, the e, oo, and ah, ignoring the rounded off for a moment. We'll get to that in a moment. And these are what we call anchor sounds, what I call anchor sounds. They are sounds that you want to practice because these are the boundaries that help you position all of the other vowel sounds, all the other sounds in general, consonants as well, and maintain positioning for what we call the basis of articulation. The basis of articulation is the resting position, the starting position of your mouth, your tongue, even your throat, everything, in order to speak the sounds, pronounce the sounds of one particular language. Now, if you look at this, and let's go ahead and fill in the blanks. Now, some of these I have brackets instead of nothing. The ones that are nothing, they are really going to have slashes. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm making a distinction between the sounds that are truly in the KK system that we use in Taiwan, and then the sounds that are not. I'm not writing them here as the KK symbol. I'm actually using them as the IPA symbol. And the big difference is that IPA is going to be one sound. So this sound here is a single sound IPA, but if I wrote it as KK, it would be two sounds, A, just like the O in IPA and O in KK. So if you see a bracket like that, that means it's IPA looking at one sound. Everything else is going to be KK, typically as it's used in Taiwan. So what you see here, there's going to be another one here and technically one here. Okay. This is effectively the positioning of the vowels as used in Taiwan. And what do you see here? It's mostly front and back. Very little in the middle, and typically the things in the middle are going to be unusual things. We'll talk about that one later. And then this one in the middle, which is really used as you're moving back and forth between the front and the back. Mostly front and back. And if we even look at the consonant sounds, most of the consonants are going to be up here. That's your t, d, n, s, sh, j, z. Your L is going to be over here. Your b, p, m is going to be in the front with the teeth. And that's really the consonants for and back here you're going to have k, g, and ang. So again, it's front, especially high, and back. That's the way the English is going to be, which means your mouth and your tongue and everything about you must be ready to go there, must be ready to go down here in the front, or must be ready to do things in the back. And even more important, it must be ready to do something in the back and something in the front at the same time. So if you have the word clock, that's a k here and a l here, and then an a and then a k here. Clock. Well, how can you do that? If you're going to separate it, it's going to be k, la, k, right? Not going to work with English. On the other hand, if you're looking at this same chart as a set of Mandarin sounds, Chinese sounds, you're looking at a basis of articulation that is more like this. You're going through the middle. And yes, you will occasionally come up here, but not in the same way with the front of the tongue. You'll go with the mid front of the tongue and then go back down. So you're mostly staying in this area. You'll get close to that, the here, and you'll go back to the e here, because around here is where the Mandarin e is. So think about that. We have the Mandarin position, the Mandarin basis of articulation that you're used to using, and now we want you to learn something that is entirely front and back, that uses different positions of the tongue, two parts of the tongue at the same time, controls your breathing from your belly instead of your throat, controls the air and the voice at different times, not together. This is completely different between the two languages. So if you do not have something, either practice or tricks, to help you maintain the basis of articulation for English, you will keep trying to make English sounds in a Chinese way. Your tongue will always move back. So for instance, if you take, that's KK here, so that would be A, and most people in Taiwan are going to do something like this. And if you are having a more standard Chinese accent, this would end up being two sounds, A, but it's going to be this position and then coming back to the E here. Some people will write it, pardon my writing there, some people will write it as two sounds because just in Taiwanese it's typically going to be just one sound here. So we'll give it the second sound, but it's still going to be a front and then a back movement because, again, you're coming through this center part where, and that's the Mandarin basis of articulation, the Chinese basis of articulation. That's what you're used to. That's where your tongue wants to move. It is not going to want to stay in the English where you're doing the E and going up to the E or the short I. There's somewhere in this area, but again, you're moving that way. That is uncomfortable. It's not natural. You are used to moving back. The difference is between Chinese and English. How do you do that? How do you maintain an English-speaking basis of articulation when every time you move into this area, your brain says, oh, I'm speaking Chinese now, let's stick in this position. Well, one of the tricks that I always have students do is focus on the N. Because the N sound, you have to be here and you have to give it a little bit of time. And it will pull your tongue into that position. Now the trouble is that many people in Taiwan will nasalize the N and do it as an ang sound. And that will again keep you back in the Chinese basis of articulation. You'll start speaking with the Chinese habits. So there's a lot of different tricks. You don't have to use the N, but the point is that you have to have this separation between a front position, the back position, doing them at the same time. And anytime you fall into this Chinese position, you're going to be in trouble. You're no longer speaking English. Okay?